Every year, the NBA 2K series delivers a top-level basketball product to gamers. And despite being at the top for so long, they've done a great job of not becoming complacent and continuing to push the bar higher and higher. Now with the release of NBA 2K19, many are wondering if 2K Sports is able to once again top the standard they set for themselves, or if the competition is starting to catch up. For a while, NBA 2K has been the series to emulate as far as presentation goes in a sports title, as no other game gives you the feeling that you're watching a real-life sports broadcast as opposed to a video game. With NBA 2K19, that bar continues to rise. Whether it's from even more pre-game intros and player warm-ups when you start a game, the constant stat overlays that pop up throughout the game that satisfy stat nerds like myself, or the amazing commentators in the game, 2K just brings it this year. While having Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett returning doesn't move the needle too much for me, adding Ben Simmons as a guest commentator was a huge get, especially for sports podcast listeners like myself.
I think every Boston fan, everybody who works for the Celtics, who plays for the Celtics, and a coach of the Celtics, we're like, that guy's untouchable.
Unless he's commenting a Celtics game, then I might have to put it on mute. Sorry, Bill, but there's only so much homerism I can take in a video game. And we can't forget about Doris Burke, Brent Barry, Greg Anthony, and Kevin Harlan, who are as great as always as they do an amazing job of making sure there isn't too much dead air in the action.
The shot by Chandler. He knocks it down right at the buzzer!
That's a shot he'll never forget, as dramatic as they come.
To add to that, the variety of topic discussions during a game that sometimes almost seem made up on the spot is a nice treat. During a Sixers game, they went from talking about Ben Simmons to then discussing some of the best pick-and-roll ball handlers in the league.
For your money, who are the perimeter pick-and-roll ball handlers right now in the game?
Well, the guys that come to mind for me, Chris Paul is fantastic in the pick-and-roll. Damian Lillard.
It's pretty good stuff. And to my surprise, the great work on the mic even extends to the G League announcers in the MyCareer mode.
There's only so much you can do when AI makes these contested shots.
They brought a different vibe, almost like a college student doing this on their day off. At least it felt that way to me. But they were equally as engaging as the main crew.
Clock is at 3. Nails the trade!
If only I had got to spend more time in the G League just to hear these guys commentate more of my games.
1 second left, and he takes it up and lays it in.
In my honest opinion, defense has received the most love so far. With the removal of the blow-by animation ball handlers could trigger very easily in 2K18, it creates a trickle-down effect of less high percentage shots at the rim, thus keeping guys on their man around the perimeter. I also love the addition of causing ball handlers to lose fatigue when they dribble too much, which then makes their moves slower and less effective. It's a welcome addition, and I've even had to catch myself from over-dribbling a few times now. Now I'm sure a lot of people aren't huge fans of this, but it does force gamers to become better dribblers instead of holding on to it all possession, hoping to do something. What I'm not the biggest fan of is takeover abilities, as it reminds me too much of NBA Jam with the boost players get. Or maybe I'm just upset that whenever I would use it with my player, I would miss the next shot. Who knows? Now as you can expect, users instantly become better defenders with the removal of the blow-by animation. But the computer defense has become the stuff of legends now. If you happen to dribble towards another teammate, his defender can and will swipe at the ball, causing you to lose it. When they guard you one-on-one, the computer will play such suffocating defense that you can barely move. And if you dare dribble the ball in front of them on Hall of Fame difficulty, there's a good chance they'll just steal the ball from you anyway. Now on one hand, I love this as it teaches gamers to protect the ball better, but the rate Chris Dunn was stealing my lunch money the second I showed the ball was ridiculous. I was legit afraid to dribble in front of this man late in the game. The computer's one-on-one skills invites players online, especially on the higher difficulties, to play off the ball. And why wouldn't they when the computer is a mix of prime Gary Payton and Kawhi Leonard? But I'd rather the defense make the offense work for it than what 2K18 provided any day. Offensively, they're as unpredictable as ever thanks to a better mix of play calls, and it's as scary as ever to have to guard an elite ball handler. This is because the AI does a great job of using the correct move at the right time now. You never get a chance to get comfortable guarding somebody who has the ability to make your knees touch the floor. And the beautiful use of pump fakes by the computer, well, it's gotten me in the air more times than I would like to admit, only because I wasn't expecting it. Now, a common issue I've found with 2K games is that without sliders, the CPU will shoot a ridiculously high field goal percentage every single game, and it remains true in NBA 2K19, which is pretty disheartening. High 50s and mid 60s field goal percentages is not a number I'm unfamiliar with seeing in the team stats page. And now, while I praise the removal of the blow-by animation and thinking I'll be able to better guard the perimeter more, it's somehow not the case because help defense still needs work as defenders overhelp in situations where they really don't need to an awful lot. They do it in Play Now Online, they do it on Hall of Fame MyLeague, and they do it in Play Now Offline. Default settings were not this bad last year as far as help from defenders. And surprisingly, the computer has a tough time defending pick and pops consistently. Either they'll leave the screener open 4 to 5 straight times despite him being a decent shooter, or it's made even worse by the overhelping D, where I could end up with 2 guys open on the same play. Play Now Online is getting its own section this year. Now I like this mode. I play it a lot every year, so I want to know whose idea it was to put in this 3-tier stuff to select teams. Now last year they had tiers as well, but you weren't really restricted. You can go into the settings and say I only want to play teams from the tier my team is in, and that's it. But the bigger point was if I wanted to use the Sixers every game, I could. Now you're forced to use at minimum 3 different teams every 3 games. The league is sectioned off into 3 tiers, and you have to win a game in each tier with whatever team is in there before you move up a level. You could look at this and go, this is their solution to prevent people from picking Golden State every play, but all this does is force more duplicate matchups, and you have to pick a lower team in whatever tier you're playing to avoid your opponent picking the exact same team. I mean, I've already had a Suns vs Suns matchup. It's highly unlikely I was having that matchup last year. For MyLeague, the ability to now upload historic draft classes is a cool feature that I can see being expanded upon in the next game, and player mentorship gives us another avenue to develop players and gives you more reason to add a vet to the squad if he has the necessary badges you want your young guy to eventually pick up. As far as the sim engine goes, there wasn't anything too outlandish that I've seen, like Rudy Gobert averaging 25 and 15. I mean, the individual free throw attempts aren't high enough at the top, and way too many rebounds are gathered and assists given by teams as a whole. But other than that, the distribution of the majority of individual stats are once again impressive. And team records are pretty balanced as well, as there's a good amount of 50-win ball clubs. So, despite their roster, the Warriors really weren't blowing everybody out of the water record-wise. Now something, and I'm not sure a lot of people care about it, but I do, is we now have the ability to override every major award and hand it to the winner that we think deserves it. With this, more Steve Nash and Derrick Rose type stat lines can earn MVPs once again. The league meeting rules that you can vote on to change, especially those that pertain to the draft, are some of my favorite parts of the offseason. The lead up to the draft is always phenomenal with the combine and draft lottery, and even the pre-draft workouts. And although you don't see anybody heading up to the podium, it's still an overall better experience than how Live handles this portion of the offseason. Regarding free agency, there was a nice mix of players declining and accepting their player options, but I started to get worried with the number of big names who are unrestricted free agents that didn't re-sign with their team. But, to my surprise, a lot of them ended up going back to their original team. I love that. I even offered Karl Anthony Towns a contract, which he agreed to surprisingly, but luckily the Timberwolves matched it. For MyGM, you still have to endure the awkward silence as you read through text. Although it's weird that in MyLeague we have the annoying text sound whenever there's something we're supposed to read. The storyline is completely different, as your new owner Tex Towers gets the keys to an expansion team, and we're in charge of getting this off the ground. Early on, I did laugh at 2K acknowledging some of the stupid decisions they had us make last year, like trade for Vince Carter. But overall, with the expansion team element, this is a nice sequel to MyGM, the next chapter. Now in my opinion, 2K19 offers the best storyline from MyCareer to date. And that's not just because we can skip cutscenes, although that does factor into it just a bit. We start in the Chinese Basketball Association with our character AI, who after declaring for the draft as a freshman, didn't see things go as planned. Hell, to signify how low things have gotten for our guy, he literally gets traded for a Subway footlong sandwich along the way. Now I do hate that we're stuck with another forced nickname, especially when it's associated with an NBA legend. But what I found unique that I liked was, at least in the beginning, I didn't really even like my own character. I even agreed with one of his rivals, Marcus Young, at first on one of their initial arguments. Even your friend who's really giving your character sound advice, from our guy's perspective, we're supposed to think differently. Past 2K MyCareer characters even make appearances as well in the story to show that Marvel isn't the only one to have a connected universe. Lastly, regarding the neighborhood, you still basically have to pay VC just to walk around in this place. 100,000 VC gets your character only to a 75 or so this year, as opposed to an 85, and I legit feel they added the skippable cutscenes just to give the grinders some love here. Better animation emotes and perks are still dependent on you reaching a certain level to unlock, to then just have the privilege to use VC to get. Now there's always going to be pushback to microtransactions, but we as gamers just have to realize paying $60 for a game isn't the actual price tag anymore. Other than that, the design of the neighborhood is a lot better, as everything is in one general area now, and there's a lot more to do that can appeal to everybody, so there's a lot more playability to the mode this year. NBA 2K19 is a game that once again shines during a busy release window. From a fun MyCareer to a deep MyGM, and everything else in between, there is literally something for everyone to play this year. The game makes the necessary adjustments to huge flaws from the previous year, with some nice additions added in, that keeps the 2K machine going as the top simulation basketball game on the market. For more NBA 2K19 content daily, be sure to subscribe to Sports Gamers Online and hit that bell to be notified whenever a new video goes live. And don't forget to visit sportsgamersonline.com.
Out here locally, hopefully I'll be at the top soon. For now I'm at my house, on the couch, watching cartoons. You know how much you love it when you get it in abundance. Give a fuck about a budget when you always be the subject of discussion.